you guys, my name is Olivia. Thank you for joining me in another video. Today I'm going to do a flip through and a mini review of our history curriculum that we have been using this past year. It is the Notgrass History, Our Spangled Story, and we've been really impressed, and there's so many components to this curriculum that makes it fun and makes it interesting. This is a faith-based curriculum. There are biblical verses in there, and some of the review questions do ask questions coming from a Christ-centered point of view. So I would say that this would be a more difficult curriculum if you do not come from a Christ-centered home, just because there are a lot of biblical themes woven into most parts of the story. I've been super impressed with this curriculum. They do say that this is intended for 1st through 4th grade, and I think that that's pretty right on. They do a really good job of, it's not just a bunch of text on the page, there's colorful pictures and pretty thick text, and so it's not just a page full of information that you have to take in. And for 1st through 4th graders, I think that that's really great. What I think is really cool about this curriculum is for each lesson, what they do is they basically start off following a family or an important individual in that time period, historically correct, and kind of discuss what was happening to them in that time period, in that location, and then they mix in all of the important dates and historical events in that area. So you do start with the discovery of America from Europe, and then, well, at least where we're at right now, people are starting to move west now from the East Coast of the United States. There's lots of components, like I said, that make this fun. When you purchase this curriculum, you can also purchase not just the textbooks, but there's also a portion of it that is called Rhythm and Rhymes, and those are some poems and some musical tracks, and you get access to those when you purchase it. There is a colorful timeline, so it's going to have all the dates and the important times in history, and where important people pop up. So if you don't keep your own history timeline, we do that. We have our own book that we keep our history timeline in, but it's really cool to reference to. It's all in color, which I think is so helpful and awesome for this age demographic specifically. And then there is a student handbook. I think it's called the handbook, but it's basically lesson per lesson, kind of like an activity for you to fill in there. There's an opportunity to do crafts at the end of each unit, and there are sometimes recipes that you can put together and make for the units that are appropriate for the units as well. Another thing that really drew me to this was the fact that there was a literature component, and if you've watched any of our other videos,
I don't know who we are, me, if you watched any of my other videos,
you have probably caught on to the fact that we're a lit heavy family, and it's just the way we love to learn through living books, which they do a really good job of putting together not just fiction novels that are age appropriate and history in time appropriate. My brain's not working, I'm so sorry. But also there's some introduction to some biography type books, which I think is nice for this age, because in just like our family, we haven't really delved into a bunch of biographies, and so they are kid age, but it's a good introduction of that. So there's a mix between some fiction books and some nonfiction books. Obviously, pre-read the back of all of them. They might not be age appropriate for your guys' household. I found that they're okay for us. The literature component is optional. You don't have to purchase that. I also did not purchase the brand new literature component from Notgrass. I went through and I found the book list, and then I bought everything used, because that's just what I do, because we buy so many books. And so I need a break somewhere, I buy them used. So It's not necessary for you to buy the literature component, but you would be getting it split into half the year. So there's a textbook for the first half of the year and a textbook for the second half of the year, and then the other components that I had mentioned. So I'm going to flip through for you guys so you guys can see what it looks like in the book, what a unit looks like, which is 3 of the lessons, how we split it up for the week, and I also do a flip through of the timeline and the rhythm and rhymes book, as well as the student handbook. So let's take a look at those. I want to kind of give a rundown of what is going to be included in our Star Spangled Story from Notgrass, as well as a quick flip through of an example of a lesson and how we split it up during the week. First of all, you're going to have your textbooks. This is going to be the main chunk of your learning right here. There are 2 of them, so it's split up into 1 year or half a year, the other half a year. We do science 1 week and then history the next week. So we go a little bit slower through our curriculums instead of trying to fit them both into a week. Next year, I may split that up a little bit and try to do half of the week science and the other half of the week history. I'll see how it works. But right now we're just about done with part 1 of our Star Spangled Story, and then we will have part 2 to use next year or move right into wherever we're at. You also are given this Star Spangled Rhythm and Rhymes book. These are some different poems and some different songs on a track that is included when you log in. There's a digital track for some different music that goes along with each lesson. You're also given this student notebook, and there are aligning entries in the student notebook for each of the lessons and units in the text. A lot of it is color heavy, and then there are some reviews. There's an option to write a paragraph about a different topic if you want, and this spans both texts, is in this one student workbook. Also included, which we have not used a whole lot of, but I do think that it's helpful if you don't have another timeline situation, is the Star Spangled Timeline. And it is exactly what it says. It is a timeline. It is a timeline of different important dates and individuals throughout history. This can be a really valuable tool for you to use in your homeschool space while you're going through this. It's in color, and there's many, many pages. And this is printed through 2021. It shows you there. So here's an example of a unit. Each unit contains 3 lessons, and they're all related on topic. So for Unit 11, you'll be doing lesson 31 through 33. 31 is the Applegate family and the Oregon Trail. 32 is the Trist family and the Mexican War. 33 is Bill Wilson and his gold nugget. Each lesson is going to focus on an individual from that time period, and it's going to kind of use that person's story to explain what was happening in the United States during this time. And as you can see, there's lots of pictures. It's not just a whole page of text, and it's all in color, which I love. At the end of each lesson, there is a verse here. You're going to have some lesson activities. It gives you the suggestion of what to listen to in Rhythm and Rhymes book, which is included in here. It's going to tell you to complete that page in the student workbook for that lesson. So for here in this lesson, it says to either draw a covered wagon with a family eating dinner beside their campfire, or write a paragraph about the most important things the family had to take with them on the Oregon Trail. It also gives a suggestion for whatever piece of literature for this unit that you are reading, and it'll say to just read a bit in this book for this unit. There are some review questions for each lesson in the unit. And then there's some hands-on history. Pretend you're traveling in the Oregon Trail. What could your wagon be? And then it repeats this exact same setup. So now there's a new family that they're going to use to tell this story to explain what was going on that's important in America in this part of history. There are also map work all around the USA map. This is in the back of this textbook. And then it says find, and it will mention some places to find. And I find that this is a great way for kind of getting an idea of just how spread out certain things were happening in this time period. And also in the beginning, like during the American Revolution, just how much was happening in a tight space in relation to everything else. I find that finding things around the map gives you better information and a better idea of what things looked like and where. So finally, we're here at lesson 33, at the end of lesson 33, and it'll say, see the Unit 11 project, the unit review. There's always a review for the unit, which is within the lesson 33 of the student notebook. It's typically filling in the blank or matching things up. And then at the end of each unit, there is typically a craft or even a recipe to follow. So what I love is that you are getting reading time, review, and some crafting if this is something that is important in your family, is having some art time. There's also plenty of opportunity to draw and color as well in the student notebook. My son is not a fan of coloring, so he is 9, technically in 3rd grade, and we skip the coloring things. I always have him do the review part of it. And here or there, I'll ask him if he wants to draw a picture or write. And if he does not want to, I will just kind of ask him orally, what would you take, that sort of thing. But they have it set up in this book so that you really can fit in what it is that's important to you and make this curriculum something that works for you. As you see here, there is a good chunk of text. There always is the pictures. They try to include some photos, some real life photos. But also what I love is that these are small, digestible chunks of information. Obviously, there would be more detail and you would go into things further with a high school curriculum or even a middle grade curriculum. But for the age group that this is intended for, which is 1st through 4th, I think that it scratches the surface, gives them a picture, and has some information that is important for you to add to it. I try to do school in a 4-day work week, and so I really split up their curriculum to finish between Monday through Thursday, and then I have Friday be our optional day that we include catch-up work or maybe some art things. So what we will do is I will do this unit on Monday. I will do this lesson on Monday. I will do the next lesson either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on how much other reading and writing we have going on in our other subjects. And then the next one on Thursday. And I always include the student notebook for Thursday because that is often the review chapter. It is not necessary for you to buy the literature package, but it is something that I went ahead and did because that is something that we do for every subject in our home that offers it, is buy the literature, because I think this gives such a good look and a different point of view into the topic of those time periods. Living books are a way to really kind of insert yourself into that time period that's not dry text, though I don't think the Notgrass Star Spangled Story text is dry for this age. I also really like that their suggestions are a mix between some biography type books and then also some fiction novel type books. So here's an example. We have the Landmark books, Meet George Washington. These are some pretty thick text, so it's not really heavy. And they have you read this within 3 units. So remember, each unit is 3 lessons long, and that's what we fit into a week. Here's a Laura Ingalls Wilder Biography option, again, pretty good sized text, so this is a thicker book. My son thought that this book was super sweet. This is Benjamin West and his cat Grimalkin. This text is a little smaller, but I'm pretty sure they gave you maybe 4 units worth to work this into your homeschool space. And then this is Freedom Crossing. The text gets a little bit smaller, and this is a decent sized novel. Again, they give you several weeks or units worth for you to go through this book, and it will tell you in the back of the lessons what book in literature you should be reading in or referring to. All right, guys. Right now, as of filming this, it is the end of spring. A lot of people are wrapping up their homeschool years, and people are itching to look at new curriculum. So if you guys have been on the hunt for another history curriculum, I looked through a lot. We had used a couple in the past, and when I saw this curriculum and all of the different things that we could use or decide not to use to make it work for us, I was really hooked. And I have to say, after using it for this homeschool year, we've been really happy with it. And my son enjoys reading it, and we also really like the literature component to it. So if you guys have any more questions about anything that I mentioned, you want me to clarify anything else, go ahead and leave those comments down below. If you are already familiar with Notgrass and you've used this one or the higher level, let me know what I have to look forward to down in the comments below. Or if you've tried this and it just didn't work out for you guys, I would love for there to be some discourse about that too in the comment section. So anyway, I love hearing from you guys, and I will see you guys in the next video.